Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello. Yes, you can. What is going on, guys? GZTV back with another video. This is the only video of the day. And today, we are going to be talking about the Season 3 finale of Better Call Saul, Lantern. Wow, what an episode this was. I can't wait to discuss it with you guys. Today's been a pretty good day. I got to do some homework, probably watch some Walking Dead, dinner, shower, watch some football tonight. So that's how the rest of my day's going. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Let's get into the plot. Obviously we have the opening and the main story. Obviously the opening, there wasn't much there, but it kind of hinted at something. It kind of gave us some foreshadowing looking back on it, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, let's go. Opening. In a flashback, a young Chuck McGill reads the adventures of Mabel to a younger Jimmy McGill in a tent outside their family's Cicero, Illinois house. So, the adventures of Mabel, when he was over talking to Chuck that one time, that's what the story they were referring to. So they kind of showed that fond memory of them as kids. Chuck reading it to Jimmy, which is very wholesome. And I feel like maybe the reason why they showed that point in their life was because that's when Chuck turned on Jimmy, I guess. I feel like that's kind of the significance of that. The camera zooms in on a lantern, which you will see later on in the episode, is very much foreshadowing, and it is beautifully done. This is a great episode, I think. Main story. There's a lot of shock value, and we'll get to it. Following her car crash, Kim Wexler's broken arm has been put in a cast, so obviously she's very limited. She can't do everything. She has to cancel a couple of things via Francesca. She returns with Jimmy to the site of the crash, and Jimmy picks up her scattered papers to make sure she doesn't lose any documents, and then she can continue with her clients moving forward. Obviously, you don't want to lose important documents. Some of them would cost someone's life, probably. Their whole fucking allowance. The following morning, Jimmy feels responsible for her accident because she took on a second client partially to help pay for their shared office space. So obviously, Jimmy feels a little bit of guilt because he thought that Kim felt that she had to do a little more than she should have just to keep this office up and running, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's all starting to crumble down with this car crash. Kim is set ways back, so yeah. Jimmy and Kim vacate their office to save money by having Kim work from home, and they're like, look, we can just put the office to the side and not have to pay for it, not occupy it. You can just work from home and get some expenses that way. And then once you get healed, we can go back to the office and continue our practices. And I don't know how long it is in the story when Jimmy is able to become a lawyer. But my prediction is once this year ends, he's going to just change his lawyer name to Saul Goodman. Because we're getting into season 4 out of 6, so we're getting close to the Breaking Bad storyline. Hector Salamanca pays Nacho Varga's father, Manuel Varga, for use of Manuel's upholstery shop as a front for Hector's drug business. So obviously Manuel is very hesitant. He does not like Hector Salamanca. He doesn't like his motives. He doesn't like anything like the cartel is behind, which is very, very understandable. But you just got to do what you got to do. I mean, he kind of had to protect himself in that situation by taking the money and letting him take the shop, because knowing the cartel and knowing kind of what the extremes these people take, we saw it in Breaking Bad. We're probably going to see it eventually in Better Call Saul, and Nacho Varga as well. He's kind of there with Hector Salamanca and his henchmen, and he's trying to protect his father. He's like, please do this. I don't want you to die. I don't want you to get hurt by these people because they're threatening us, and they're threatening my ego. Manuel reluctantly takes the money to avoid retaliation from Hector. Of course, that's literally why he has to take the money. Nacho plans to ambush Hector, but is pulled into a meeting between Hector, Gus Fring, and Juan Bolsa. So we see him holding a gun, trying to follow Hector into this, into the upholstery shop. I think late at night they were meeting, and then Gus Fring and Juan Bolsa show up right as he's about to take the action, and they decided to meet up. Juan says Gus's organization will permanently handle cross-border smuggling for both Gus's operation and Hector's. So pretty much Gus is taking full control. Gus is in charge. Hector's not going to like that. An enraged Hector suffers a stroke. He gets so mad that he goes into a stroke. And obviously Hector's not a very likable character. He kind of is asking for handouts. He can't handle his own business, so he's trying to finesse his henchmen and get some connections out of them, use them. So, yeah. As Mike Ehrman's had advised, Nacho takes the fake nitroglycerin capsules that Hector dropped and replaces them with the real ones to make it look like he didn't die because of the spiked pills. He died just because he suffered a stroke and the medication didn't work for one time. So Nacho's in the clear right now. So yeah, Gus looks at Nacho suspiciously but says nothing. Obviously, Gus is a very smart individual. He knows who to trust and who not to trust, and obviously we saw that in Breaking Bad. He's kind of displaying that in his character with kind of his body language after this event takes place, and he is right to be suspicious. He picks the pills up. He's put them in his pocket, and yeah, I don't know. Jimmy expects Irene Landry's friends to forgive her after she accepted the Sandpiper settlement. However, she finds they still do not trust her because now they think she will do anything to get on their good side. So she's kind of messed something up. She's kind of burned a bridge by not paying the settlement, even though she wasn't aware of the implications of the settlement, and no one gave her knowledge on the things. Knowing how corrupt Sandpiper is, they probably wanted to hold out as long as possible and not advise her about these type of things. So now they're thinking, oh, now you want to be nice to us. That's kind of their attitude. Jimmy's fucking trick here works like a charm. So he stages an argument with Aaron Brill and accidentally admits to tricking Irene, vindicating her to her friends, and causing her to withdraw her acceptance. So Davis and Maine wins at the end of the day, and the settlement is still in the air because Irene withdraws it in time. And they hear how Jimmy kind of thinks this about the old people, but obviously he's not serious about saying oh, they're nearing the end of their lives. Why would I care? That's pretty much the type of stuff he talked about, and they got mad at him. And obviously the bridge is burned with Sandpiper. He'll still get his money. It'll just take a while, but yeah. Chuck promises to abandon his lawsuit if he can stay at HHM. Instead, Howard presents Chuck a check for $3 million. So it's pretty much like Chuck is suing Howard at this point. The first installment of Chuck's buyout. And he's probably going to periodically get checks, kind of like pensions from Howard, which is kind of corrupt, but it's kind of scandalous. Howard criticizes Chuck for prioritizing his vendetta against Jim, but praises Chuck profusely as he informs HHM's employees of Chuck's immediate retirement, which you kind of have to give Chuck his praises. He's a big part of this firm, and even if he's going against the firm, he has every right to do that whenever he wants. It's his firm. So yeah, he's pretty much getting refunded for putting money into the law firm, which isn't right really, but that's what Howard has to do to get him out of their hair, I guess. He definitely, Howard's attitude switches when he joins the crowd of people at HHM, so that kind of shows you something, I guess. Jimmy tries to make amends with Chuck, but Chuck says Jim was never all that important to him, finally coming out and admitting dude, you're not important to me. I don't care. I just wanted to run my law firm and forget the rest. He's very selfish. His character shines through in these scenes, the scenes he's involved in this episode. After Jimmy leaves, Chuck's EHS symptoms return, and he destroys the walls of his house while trying to find the device that is making his electricity meter run, because it's still whirring around, which means there's still electrical activity. Unable to find the source, he destroys the meter in frustration. So he's fucking breaking into his walls like an absolute insane maniac, to no avail, obviously. My goodness, he went off the deep end in this episode. I've never seen any character in this show at such a low point, and the only time in the whole Breaking Bad universe that I've seen someone that low of a point was Jesse, when he was literally homeless and they were stopping the operation with Walter. 5 days later, oh my god, this was a lot to handle. This was a heavy situation right here. Chuck lays on a couch and kicks the table several times, deliberately knocking over a gas lantern and starting a fire. So we have to assume he died in the fire, but that's the cliffhanger. We're going to have to find out in Season 4 if Chuck survives, which I don't think he will. The episode received a great deal of critical acclaim. This is probably one of the show's best episodes, and it's a season finale, in all of the Breaking Bad universe, they try to make it a point to make for great season finales, because the whole season's kind of building up into these last moments, Davis and Maine is winning over, what's his name, Jimmy. Jimmy and Kim's solo practice isn't quite working out. Chuck is gone completely mad. What else? And Hector's on the verge of death, and Nacho is going to be put on the hot seat, I imagine. 8.79, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, 9.5 out of 10 on IGN. Better Call Saul pulled off a fantastic Season 3 finale that perfectly balanced its storylines and brought a big lesson to Jimmy's doorstep, with some hugely impactful moments that were both incredibly emotional and long awaited by fans. Lantern proves that Better Call Saul is better than it's ever been with Season 3. The final scene was great. The focus was primarily on sending off Chuck, and the finale did it right in painstakingly painful fashion. Like, that was terrible. It just made you feel so disturbed, made you feel uncomfortable walking out of the episode. Like, oh man. I don't know, it's been GZTV reviewing your favorite TV shows. Not much of an intro, but hopefully you guys have a rest of your day. I'm going to relax a little bit and